All right, Dave, it's time for another episode of the weekly recap. I totally didn't mess up a take already. We are going to write these scripts for each other and then read them for the very first time right here and now. This is for the wild cards. So let's get it started. Well, Dave, for one last time this year, let's recap what we saw last weekend. Starting off on Thursday, the top 4 EU SEC teams as well as the top 2 EU SOC teams all were in play. Now, Belt Slap and Snake Pit, the odds-on favorites to advance to the finals, would not play until later in the day, awaiting the winners from our first 2 matchups, Smiley Face versus Cold Alpacas. Geez, these names. And Peekery Noobs 2 versus Warm Snails. Based on my ability to say the names without the light fading from my eyes, Smiley Face and Peekery Noobs 2 would advance. But in the game of reality, only one of those two would be correct as in back-to-back 3-game sets. The Cold Alpacas and Peekery Noobs both advanced to the next winners round. One thing we did learn is that the SOC was here to be competitive, and the SEC teams have competition to look out for. Thursday afternoon gave us our first look at the tournament favorites in Belt Slap and the Snake Pit, and both of their sets would end quickly, 2-0. The big question became, did the Snake Pit look good enough to give us confidence in their ability to take down Belt Slap? And I think they did, at least on Thursday. Belt Slap has history and skill on their side coming into this weekend, and the rumbling rumor is, can they beat an SPL team? In order for us to entertain that thought, they need to demolish teams at this level of play. At least on Thursday afternoon, Belt Slap looked like their same unstoppable selves, and day 1 of the Smite World Championship qualifiers went exactly how we expected. Dave will talk us through the same stage of the NA bracket on Friday.
Thanks, Finch. It is indeed time for NA, a region of the world with enough wealth to solve homelessness tomorrow, if they wanted to. It also served as a great foil to EU because we only needed 9 of the possible 12 games to determine who would move on to the semifinals, and no game lasted an eon. Funnily enough, both SOC teams would move on, dropping only 1 set combined all day. Since Spreed and Mind the Gap were the big winners of day 1, we'll follow along with their journey. First, the SOT and Guy J-led Spreed went up against Oceans, Hugs, and Kisses. It was the longest set of the day, but eventually Spreed would move on and send H&K to the lower bracket. Spreed then faced off against the SCC number 1 seed Get a Grip. The Get a Grip roster, having lost Baskin and Gino, was weaker than ever before and lost to Spreed in 2 close games. On the other side of the bracket, former Xbox All-Stars Mind the Gap lined up against Data Remembers Froggy for another short battle. Crimson and Griff led everyone in damage and led MTG to a set win. That meant MTG would face Andenstir's Winter Dogs next, who are known for quick and aggressive games. The games were quick, but all of the aggression was on the side of MTG, who moved on to face Spreed on Sunday.
Okay, well, it's on the championship Saturday for the EU side of the bracket, and both of the top teams are still in play. To catch up on the remaining teams won't take much time because there are only 3 teams left. Cold Alpacas, after falling down to Belt Slap, advanced from their losers round 1 match against Warm Snails 2-1. The final time I have to say Warm Snails, thank God. Would saying Cold Snails make me feel better, though? I'm kind of unsure.
I don't know. Is it the warm? I don't know.
Yeah, which part of that's weird, right? The lukewarm Snails are out, and Smiley Face would end up moving on to face the Cold Alpacas in losers round 2 after defeating Peekery Noobs swiftly 2-0. The most important set of the weekend for these 2 teams would go the distance, with the Cold Alpacas advancing after decisive play in a 2-1 victory. And now that we're caught up there, let's see what happened with the big boys up top, Snake Pit versus Belt Slap. Anticipation was at an all-time high for these 2 teams to face off against one another, and that anticipation would result in some level of disappointment. Belt Slap, despite some contested games, shows us that the competition isn't as close as some may have expected with a 2-0. Johnny out of the jungle had a fantastic set, and we saw more examples of duo lanes exceeding expectations through Trix Tank and Arkle. The weekend wasn't over for Snake Pit, though. Yeah, they're good, huh? With one final chance at Worlds with a win over the Cold Alpacas in the losers finals, and when they did, like a team possessed, the Snake Pit came into this matchup with a fury and effectively decimated their opponents in the losers finals. Worst Turtle had a great showing alongside Angry at a mid, and Snake Pit set up a rematch of Destiny with Belt Slap in the finals. One final set, one more match to give yourself a chance at lifting the hammer, and it came down to the 2 teams we all expected in Belt Slap and the Snake Pit. A seemingly insurmountable mountain that is beating Belt Slap much less, while they have a game advantage, seemed to shrink game after game. The Snake Pit came to the finals with a clear-cut game plan and proceeded to take a couple of games off of Belt Slap. We figured that the jungle would be potentially the most important role in this set, and Worst Turtle showed us exactly why in the first couple of games. Suddenly, it is the favorite who need to win in order to stay alive, and stay alive they did. Game 5 showed us what this Belt Slap team is capable of when the wheels start turning, and what we may have to look out for in the Smite World Championship placements at the beginning of the year. Belt Slap were always going to be the team moving on, but belts off to Snake Pit for making it interesting. Dolson will tell us who is advancing to Worlds from North America.
Yeah, to get one final bad one in there for you at the end, Finch. Yes, Finch, everything you just said was perfect, and I can't wait to ruin everything by being so handsome and funny. Wait, that all sounds great. Actually, Dave hype. Yeah, baby, let's get some going on here. Anyway, day 2 is elimination day, so it's time to send some people home. But how do they get there? And why am I starting sentences with prepositions? Yeah, didn't we learn anything in English? I certainly didn't. I didn't even know that was an issue. Well, we got there with an exciting last day, Finch. We got there with an exciting last day, and Finch is bad at grammar. Apparently I am too at speaking. The semifinal match of Spreed and Mind the Gap lived up to the hype, with Layers and SOT going blow for blow out of the jungle role. In the end, Layers couldn't quite keep up, and Spreed moved on to the finals with a 1-game advantage. So now Mind the Gap can't afford to lose again. They face Winter Dogs, who eliminated Get a Grip and Hugs and Kisses off-stream. This rematch went almost exactly the way the first match did, with Winter Dogs seeming too hesitant and Mind the Gap playing decisively. Having earned their rematch with Spreed, Mind the Gap came in hot. Crimson seemed to ascend to a higher plane, and Quigs is nuts out of the support role. In fact, it's a good thing Spreed got a 1-game advantage, otherwise they wouldn't have gotten any wins up against the new and improved Mind the Gap. At some point in this set, everyone on Mind the Gap played out of their minds. It was a total team win as they were crowned the best in NA and move on to face SPL teams in the World's playoffs. That's it. That's all for Wildcards and Finch. That is our last weekly recap, whatever you want to call these things, for the year of 2020. That's it, though, for the SWC Wildcards as written by Dave and Finch and as told by Finch and Dave. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. The Smite World Championships kick off soon.